Travis Wingate, so I can't wait all day, so I'm giving up on all those that are failing to. Yeah. So let's make you guys uncomfortable. Let's talk about sex. It is the known church law of chastity. Thou shalt have no sexual relations except with your husband or wife to whom you are legally lawfully wedded. And then Nelson went and changed it. According to God's law, which is the law of polygamy, is found in section 132 of the Doctrine and Covenants. 10 virgins. It is law. You must comply to it. Sorry, Mormons, if you were unaware of Nelson making that change, whose fault is it? I don't go to church anymore. You're the one who's going to church, and you don't even know about that change? Shame on you. So, my sex ed growing up in a strict Mormon household with both parents having served missions. Dad went to Japan, and I guess that's in part why has nothing to do with it. As I'm looking at the screen of a South Korean girl singing, they're from the band Mamamoo, and it's Wanna Be Me is the song. So I stopped it so that I didn't have the song going in the background and YouTube getting all upset in a hissy fit. You're stealing somebody's song! No, I'm not. So, yeah, anyway. So my sex ed, as my mother herself served a mission, Eastern States, Dad to Japan. Both of them coming from, well, my dad's not so much as a strict family. It was sort of a laxed Mormon. It was habit Mormon. And it's interesting because my dad's paternal side are converts to the church. They weren't pioneers, but they go back a few generations. And then my dad's maternal side, that's John Solomon Fulmer. And that seems to help me understand why the family is so lackadaisical, laid back, easygoing, and yet at the same time demanding of women. And a womanizer. But I'd have to go into the whole church history again with you for that. Whereas my mom's side, her paternal side are converts to the church, with my grandfather's father joining the church. And then his line going back to the North Carolina plantation owners, of whom had sex with his teenage slave girl, who became my ancestral lineage. And interestingly, the Ancestry and Me, or Ancestry.com, are like clueless as to where she comes from. Whereas 23andMe says, hey, you got a marker here in your genes that we can't identify because it's not your paternal or your maternal side, but somewhere in between for Western Africa. So Yeah, 23andMe did far better than Ancestry, which I think Ancestry, they just are collecting DNA. They have no clue what to do with it or how to identify it. And they just go by the church's genealogical records that Mormons submitted and say, oh, look, your DNA says this is your genealogy. Uh-huh. And what are they doing with my DNA then? We've corrected your DNA. What? What do you mean you corrected it? They did. They literally sent me an email saying, we have a correction in your DNA. You're linked to this person now. I went, what? Yeah, I never get that from 23andMe. So something's up with the Mormon version. If I start seeing Terminator clones of me, I'm going to be pissed. I can just see it now. Election day comes and all Travis Terminators fill the streets here in Utah. I'm going to be pissed. You are using my image without my permission. No, you signed away your permission when you gave us your DNA, Travis. So, I've strayed way off topic, haven't I? We're talking about sex, and here I am talking about Terminator and the end of the world. And so my mom's maternal side, that's Yearsley and Stevens and Wright brothers and all that pioneer heritage stuff. So yeah, we think we're related to the Wright brothers, but we're not sure. It's not directly. It's their ancestry, so we'd have to know their genealogy in order to figure out how we tie in and how far back we have to go. But yeah, that would be through my mom's side. And so, if you don't know, genealogy has the word gen. And that's where we get gene and gender is from gen. And it refers to the sexual union of male and female to produce offspring. And thus, genealogy is intended to be the biological chart of a family link, biological link. And yet, the church has allowed for the genealogy line in the church to be for adopted and foster and guardians and now gay parents. And the church had to change to allow for that now. And so the gay couples can now choose who gets to be the husband and who gets to be the wife in the Mormon family genealogy tree. But we won't go into that subject. We'll stick to abstinence, as I'm hoping I remember to put in the title. And so, as a child, I'm not quite sure how I learned that the woman's body is evil, but that's what they have to do, is teach us that, oh, you can't see a woman's body, it's evil. My sisters, I'm the oldest, so my sisters are younger. I remember when we moved to Placentia, and so I'm now turning 8 years old. So it was for when I was still 7, going on 8. And I remember Mom sticking all 4 of us in the bathtub. And I remember when we moved to Placentia, and so I'm now turning 8 years old. So it was for when I was still 7, going on 8. And I remember Mom sticking all 4 of us in the bathtub. And 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 And so at that young age, my mom wasn't concerned about us seeing each other. This is before puberty, but I still remember seeing all of us in the bathtub. And yeah, certain events. Tara Lynn, what is that? Everybody out. But as we grew up, Mom had me shower, no longer doing baths. It most likely came after I got upset with her scalding my scalp while washing my hair in the sink. And she didn't like it that I was complaining about the pain that I was going through. And so she shoved a bar of soap in my mouth. So that was fun. I've already been burned, and now she shoved soap in my mouth to shut up my complaining, which is not really helpful. It silences me, obviously, but that creates animosity between a mother and her son. So I never experienced this Oedipus Rex syndrome when I turned 12 or 10 when I actually hit puberty, because of that animosity between my mother and I. And so, yeah, that was the end of bathing with my siblings. And so I was all by myself to take my own showers. And it was around that time period. Well, sisters had their bedroom, Todd and I had ours. And so we didn't see each other, obviously. My dad occasionally would walk out of his master bedroom in his magic underwear, but I hadn't seen Mother do that. And so this covering up of our nakedness and even of our underwear sort of began around the time period where I'm taking my own showers. And so it wasn't until 5th grade when I had that one period of sex education class. I'll get to that in a second here. And so, as a kid in Placentia, my mother would provide us with activities as we sat around the kitchen table while she went off to watch her soaps and iron the laundry, because we didn't have permanent press. Non-wrinkle shirts and clothing. And so, yeah, I can still remember the piles of laundry. My goodness. But, yeah, she did all that. And it wasn't until I hit puberty and we moved to Corona where I was required to do my own laundry. We might get to that. We're already at 15 minutes here. But some of the activities involved when the Sears catalog expired and she got the new one in the mail, that she would place the old one out on the kitchen table and we would go through it and ripping out pages and cutting up pictures and making a collage. And that introduced me to the women's section as I'm beginning to see what my mother and sisters were not revealing to me anymore. It now became, what is this feminine mystery? And yet I couldn't let anybody see that I was curious and interested, and so I had to learn how to be a spy, learn how to be a pervert, as people tend to refer to such a person who has natural tendencies, but it was modest. But back in those days, you'd have underage girls in their underwear as well. And as an underage boy, that was awesome. But couldn't get into the older women. That took time for that. But in school, when I started hitting puberty, I remember wishing that the girls in my class, especially the ones that I was attracted to, would wear revealing, loose-fitting clothing in the hopes that I could get peeks. And if you don't understand how a guy's body works, which women don't, and we don't tell you, I'm revealing super secrets here. Men are going to be furious with me. Once a month, women have something leave their body that they can't control, unless they take birth control, or have that IUD, is it? But otherwise, if a woman just is natural, once a month, she gets exceedingly horny, and then it comes out. Well, it sticks first, and then bleeds out. And so women only have that once a month. And it's a consistent cycle. I did date Kimberly, who was on a 3-week cycle. And I was curious. I told her about it, and she says, "Really? Oh, I never knew." You've had how many kids? You were how old? And you didn't know you were a 3-weeker. Okay. But it's a consistent pattern. And as a consistent pattern, yes, when we men hang out with you on a regular basis, we tend to recognize these patterns, and therefore we learn to fear that time of the month when it comes up. And with men, it's different. And women are confused, and they don't understand, and they get very angry, and then very frustrated, and want to control and demand and get abusive and withhold, all thinking that they can control us. Are we able to control you? No, we're not. Why then do you think you can control us? But for us, it's like every 7 seconds, which is not really. That was a joke from whatever movie or whatever late night comedy show or whatever it originated from. But that's how it functions, is that women have a thing that comes out of their body. Men have things that come out of our body. And women only have this one thing, typically, once a month. Whereas men, a lot more times. Women already have their things already in them. Men don't have any of it. We have to produce it. And it's natural. There's nothing we can do to stop it. And yet, the abstinence educational system teaches us as Mormons, because we'll focus on Mormonism, that we as men are supposed to be able to control ourselves. That we can suppress the very first commandment given in the Bible. And if we give in, then the guilt trip is placed on us. That we feel like we've sinned, when that's not the case. I mean, even women get ashamed and feel guilty. Hopefully, well, I think I've seen a few that are not given sex ed, but women are not told about the emotional changes that come with the biological changes. And so yes, women go through that cycle of intense sexual desire, then the pain, and then the guilt, and then the anger for feeling guilty on a regular cycle. The guilt has also the sadness part of it that comes with it, and women can't control it. There are ways to ease it. Women who are physically fit tend to handle it better depending on their DNA. But this is not factoring in birth control, obviously. But for men, they don't, well, there are, but there isn't anything regularly prescribed by a doctor. You have to be a deviant before drugs would be administered to control and stop things. Yeah, with men, it's a situation of it builds, and when they tell us when it's time to come out. We don't control it. We don't control production. We don't control when it comes out. And women do not understand this. And when it's time for it to come out, it then signals the brain. And so we don't think with our little head. We think with our urim and thummim. Because they signal the brain that it's ready. And by signaling that it's ready, we then get all these different fantasies. And we can't stop it. We can't control it. Every guy has their different fantasy. And this is where I would normally, if we were not talking about the abstinence policy, and I was able to branch off into gays, that's all it would be. That's their fetish for release. And it's not abusive. I'm not being mean. That's just how it is. I have my fetish. Other guys have theirs. I grew up listening to all the guys, my peers, talking about theirs. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't have to have a triple D. She doesn't have to look like a Barbie doll. But yeah, it depends on the guy. Every guy is different. People have tried to tell me that I'm supposed to be attracted to women who look like my mother. Again, there was animosity between me and my mother. And so, yeah, I'm not too keen on that. They're trying to control me as a result of doing that. Trying to tell me that I should look for somebody like my mother. And then they tell women, look for a guy who's looking for someone like his mother. So that you can be his mother replacement. And there are a lot of people trying to tell us how we're supposed to be, rather than letting us be. And so, the longer we go without releasing, the more intense the thoughts come to our head. And as peers, to self-release is considered a shameful thing. And in the church, it's a sin. And so we're supposed to just hold it in and do what my sex ed from my dad was. And so, again, I'll bring that up. While my sisters were taken into their bedroom by my mom, and my mom used the word penis and vagina to physically, or well, not physically, but descriptively tell them how everything works. My dad hung out in the doorway as my brother and I stood next to him, by him, and he said, at your age, there may be times where you'll wake up and the bed is wet. This is natural, so if you have any questions, just let me know. And away he went to his master bedroom. And that was it. I was standing there going, oh, whew, what a relief. That was uncomfortable. And of course my brother, I think, was still pre-puberty. He was clueless. Okay. And so, yeah, when our sisters told us that they heard the word penis and vagina, that wow, that was, you got more knowledge than we did. You have super secret knowledge. And so at 5th grade, when that was the year the Southern California school system decided to have sex ed class, which was just one class for the one class period, and I think it was Jerry Brown who was the governor. Anyway, one class period, the teacher says, okay, all you women, all you girls, you need to get up and go with so-and-so to the other classroom for a special presentation. And then the girls left, and guys from the other classrooms at our grade level came into our class as our chairs were all moved to the sides of the room. We all had to sit on the floor, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is cool. We're not doing the regularly scheduled class stuff. And then all of a sudden, a slideshow of a cartoon dissected penis is on the screen. I'm going, oh, crap. And so I shut off my brain for that whole class time, as that's all the female teacher did, was go over how our penis works. And I already knew. I didn't need this. This is not educating me on anything. There was no women involved, no girls involved, no women pitchers, nothing. Just the man, how our body worked. And then afterwards, our teacher pulled us guys aside and condemned all of us, not knowing the specific individuals who were responsible, which I know wasn't me because I was friends with them, but we had two specific girls who were not like the other girls. One girl had a problem where she was lactating at that early age, and the other one was just, she's tall, and so because of her height, she was getting picked on also. But they were friends of mine. The tall one played Little League baseball, and we were on the same team 1 year until I got drafted. And then I found out from the other guys that she had broken my home run record because I got drafted up because Paul got injured. I wasn't able to handle the curveball, and so my batting average fell on the new team. Yeah, I didn't know there was a problem until the teacher pointed it out because of other peers who were teasing and making fun of them, and so that was my sex ed. That was it. And so the woman, the feminine, remained a mystery, as I was not taught, had no clue, and as I've already gone into detail, I have no idea if I've educated women who are listening. I doubt it, but I hope that wouldn't be the case, that I did educate somebody, like I did Kimberly. You're 3 weeks. Am I? Oh. But the reason why men are so frustrating to women is because of our cycles that happen regularly and frequently. Because every time it fills, and the younger we are, the more quickly it fills. And when it's full, ready to go, it signals to the brain, hey, we're ready. Here's some images for you to help you out. And so I love the movie Kane 911. I think that's the third and final one in the series. There's K9. I can't remember the other two. It's not. It's not Jim Belushi. John Belushi? It's the Belushi brother that survived. And I think it's Jim Belushi, but I'm like drawing a blank here. Just caught that. But he has a canine unit that he was partnered with in the first movie, and so the third one, it's time for him to retire, and so the canine retires with him, as Jerry the dog is getting old as well, and he then decides, well, let's breed you right before you get too old, and Jerry apparently had a thing for poodles. And so it's so cute, but so he, in order to get I think it's a German Shepherd, but in order to get the female German Shepherd to be attractive to Jerry, they had to dress it up in a poodle costume. But that's how we function as men. And so when we're ready to go off, that's when we're all lovey-dovey to women. And we're all smooth talkers, we're flirtatious, we let them pretend we're giving them attention. And so women perceive that, and if they don't understand why a man is behaving like this, why are you giving me attention? Rather than, is it Pink who does the You in Your Hand song? And I hear about how women are frustrated that after they do it together, the guy then turns over, goes to sleep, or goes out for a smoke, or go get something to eat, and leaves the woman by herself without cuddling and snuggling afterward. And women don't understand why a guy does that. It's because, as in the words of Sorsha from Willow, I was your sun, your moon, your guiding star, and it went away. Yes, it just goes away until the next time we're fully stocked, ready to go off again. That was the best line ever. And of course, she's my fetish with the red hair. But that's how it is. And if a man gives in to the peer pressure and doesn't deal with it, as in the church threatens us not to deal with it for abstinence, then it builds up. And this is why you see so many sexually deviant cases in Utah, with the high number of rapes, the high number of child porn, the high number of other sex crimes and sex trafficking and polygamy and Brian David Mitchell and the bishop down in southern Utah and the primary teachers and the other bishops and even Monson had a sexual assault case that was suppressed from the news, and Nelson's child, one of his daughters, when in the 80s, her and her husband are accused of holding satanic sex rituals there in their Bountiful home. So, yeah, this is why, well, some of it, other parts of it are just pure evil, but it's because the guys are taught not to deal with it. Because if we just wait until we wet our bed, we go through intense emotional perversions. Because at the beginning, it starts off simple and softcore, but it elevates up the X's. And so all these psychiatrists that try to tell us that we become desensitized and so we desire the upper X's. No. Had nothing to do with that. And so very frustrating that we have a religion that, instead of allowing for proper sex education, and as I've told you before, ancient Egyptian is sex ed in their communication. They merged everything together. Religion, government, sex ed, everything societal in a communication language. I mean, it was a brilliant language, and I don't understand why Egyptologists can't figure it out. But anyway, if anything, I hope I can draw more women to this video, as men are going to be pissed now. You gave away our secrets! We wanted to be mysterious! Now it's just women who are mysterious. So, yeah, if you're being preyed upon by a man, now you know why. And there's nothing we can do about it until we go off. And so, yeah, there's nothing you can do about it, women. You can dress yourself in a complete robe, cover your face, and a guy who's ready to go off will still find you the most attractive woman in the universe. There's nothing you can do. Absolutely nothing. And that's just the way we're designed, because of the first commandment in the Bible. And so if our church would understand this, or at least not be so evil to torture us, we would have a lot less problems in society. But when you have conservative government that punishes specifically the woman, when it's the men, they just need an outlet, and so the woman ends up with the instant, immediate consequences that are life-altering, whereas the guy, no life-altering consequences unless he decides to take responsibility for what he did. And when you have teenage boys who have football scholarships, or going on a mission, or are the son of somebody prominent, you end up having rape kits piling up. And that's the sad, ugly truth of the abstinence-only educational system, is that you can't have abstinence. I mean, that's a science denier right off the bat. And it's being taught in our school systems. You're not supposed to mix religion and science. And Mormonism used to be science-based until Brigham Young. So, I hope that helps women out. I hope it helps men out. If you were educated like I was, or not educated like I was. But most of the people who watch this have already gotten a general idea already from experience, trial and error, after our years of involvement. So, understand it's the church's fault. The moral of the story, it's the church to blame.